right, hello there, and welcome to the Flix Forum podcast, where each episode we go back and we look at a Netflix original film in the order of release. Today, we've got Netflix 104th one. It's the 2018 comedy, The After Party. It's directed by Ian Edelman. It stars Kyle Harvey, Harrison Holzer, Shelley Hennig, and Teyana Taylor. I am Jesse, and with me I have MJ. How you doing?
I'm good, Jesse. How are you this morning?
Yes, it's a morning record. We usually do afternoon record, so this is different. Usually, I try and have some kind of flavoursome beverage, but it's a little bit early to do that. So on the waters this morning, which is nice.
I was going to mention. I was think, do I call Jesse out for not having a beer at 9:40? But we haven't done a morning one for a very long time.
No, in the early days we used to do quite a few in the morning. So I might be a bit rough. Yeah, still waking up a bit and trying to work out what's going on today. Haven't seen the daylight yet, so yeah, it's weird. All right, well, yeah, we have another film for you guys, and this is a goody little one, I guess, The After Party. So we start our show with our Fast Flicks, where we do a little summary of the film. So MJ, fill us in on your Fast Flicks for this one.
So After Party is about a high school rapper who has one night to try and get a record label before he ships off to the Marines in the morning.
Yeah, you put that. I really struggled with this one because I was like, "What do you say about this?"
Yeah,
but yeah, I think the similar sort of line I've just said. It's an up and coming rapper who must rethink his and his friends' dream jobs when a vomiting video goes viral.
Oh yeah,
I
think ours work well together actually.
Yeah, put them together and we've got most of the film done. So don't bother about watching this one. We can just. If you did want to watch this one, give us a pause and come back later on because we will head into some spoiler territory very, very soon. And this is where MJ is going to fill us in on how this one was made and how this one was put together.
From what I can gather, this one was, and it's not saying it was a pretty straightforward process. It just means the information about it online is run of the mill. So basically, Netflix were involved in this one from the very start, which I always like. I like it when Netflix has their own productions that they're not buying off a film that. Actually, I shouldn't say that. I love it when they buy things from film festivals and they buy things of other studios who are having trouble with distribution. But this is something Netflix had from the very start. Ian Edelman wrote the script, and then Netflix eventually got him to direct the screenplay that he wrote. They made that announcement in September 2017. Basically, got everything rolling then. So that same month was when principal photography began. They filmed for about six weeks in New York. They did use the Meadows Music and Arts Festival and the Gramercy Theatre as locations, as became pretty obvious when you watch the film. And then it was released on Netflix on the 24th of August in 2018. So that's less than 12 months, that whole period of getting everything signed off, making a film, editing a film, and releasing a film.
Yeah, I think you've put that all together very nicely. The only other little bits, it had a working title project. Oh, sorry, the working title of it was the Untitled World Star Hip Hop Project. So I think that the sort of talent behind this, and obviously there's a lot of cameos in this of a lot of well-known rappers, and Live Nation were on board as some sort of partner. So obviously, there are a lot of people behind it that had an idea about what they wanted from it, and then it was just a matter of working on that plot and getting some talent on board that aren't just cameos, I guess. The tagline for this one was "Doors open for those who push," which I thought was an interesting little tagline. It's sort of I don't know. It's just a weird little situation with this film where one of the main characters, we talk about this in the characters, I guess, but very, very pushy, and I'm not necessarily I don't think I like that tagline.
It's funny because it's more like the tagline historically would be something like "Don't give up on your dreams," and this is all more about the idea that he wasn't giving up on the dream, but he was also not taking no for an answer. Which, again, it's an admirable trait.
Last other thing that I've got is my my now famous translations.
Oh yes,
into other languages. Now, there wasn't a lot of variation in this one at all. So in Greek, it was "The party continues." So along the similar sort of lines as "The After Party." The only other one that, and I have no idea how this translates, but in Vietnamese, the title of this film was called "Increase 2."
Is that a sequel to Increase?
Yes. So that if anyone speaks Vietnamese and wants to fill us in on that one, that's that one confused me because I was like, who are we increasing and by what? But
look, in fairness, there's every time you do look at these, there's definitely a cultural barrier in some of the titles that doesn't make a lot of sense to us. So the After
100%.
Party is not a particularly exciting title, and I don't think it really resonates with the film as much as like when I found out that we were doing a film called The After Party, I just assumed it would be like a Project X type film. I think it loses its sense of like the rap and the music industry by having that title, but it's not a bad title. It just doesn't really stick with the film that much.
Good point. Yeah, good point. All right, consensus time. I think we're ready to see what this one was saying. So what have you got for some consensus for us?
It's not that bad. Like, so IMDb is a 5.8 out of 10, about 3,500 ratings there. Letterboxd is a 2.6 out of 5 off nearly 1,800 ratings. So it's definitely not a terribly popular film, but it's not a hated film by any sense of the imagination. I think it's got a key target audience that would really like it. And if you're out of that, you might have some issues with it.
Yeah, Google users 94% liked this, which is a little bit higher than we've had lately. Rotten Tomatoes. Now this one is this is such a stark contrast that I don't think we've had one this differing in a long time. So the audience had this at 88% on nearly 400 reviews.
That's
Rotten Tomatoes,
bad.
yeah, not bad. Rotten Tomatoes for the critics, it sits at 0%. Sits at dead bang on 0, only on 5 reviews, no consensus, but that is a huge difference. A huge difference.
I suppose that just supports what I was saying about that it's got a really specific audience. If you are into the rap industry, if you are into hip hop industry, if you're even into the music industry in general, I think there's things in this film that will appeal to you. And without that love or even knowledge, it struggles to hit the mark. So I can imagine the 5 critics who reviewed this on Rotten Tomatoes, and it sucks that we're talking about 5 people, right? Like this is 5 people's opinion. So, but the 5 people on Rotten Tomatoes are like, well, this film's not for me. It sucks. So I kind of get that. But 88% is huge, and 400 ratings isn't a small sample size.
And at the same time, like I looked at a couple of those 5 reviews, and you got to remember 2 out of 5, 2.5 out of 5 gives it a rotten, which. Yeah. You know, if everyone gives it 2.5, 2.5's not that horrible a score, but that proves that, on Rotten Tomatoes that's rotten. So, okay. Early thoughts time. I think we're ready to jump into what we're thinking about this one. So, what are your early thoughts on this film?
I kind of alluded to it because it's just not really my scene. It never left a mark on me, and I don't think there was ever a point where I got into this film. I had a lot of issues with the main character, Jeff. I guess you could argue that he wasn't the main character, but he was probably in the film more than anyone else. So I just found the character to be so overplayed, and it never actually felt real. And sometimes that can work when you're coming in for like a scene or two, but because he had so much screen time, I just thought he was a really tough hang for this whole film.
Yeah, I completely agree, 100%. The characters and how they set them up and what they did with these characters. Yeah, I think we're going to talk quite a bit about this because like this like you said, this had the ability for me to like really, really hate it. Just straight up. And I didn't necessarily like it either. It's one of those it's one of those tricky ones. It had some okay moments, so it's an okay film. And like, I get this probably isn't really saying much about the film, but I just found this one really, really hard. Like I did with the Fast Flicks. It follows like that structure that you just expect from the film, like down pat, and it didn't really add anything new to this type of film or this type of formula. And I guess that's where I'm sitting at with this one. It's tricky. But yeah, I think when we'll segue into that now and talk about the characters, because I think this is where we're going to get a good crux of, hit us off with Jeff, because I think I agree with what you're going to say on him a little bit further.
Yeah, well, as I said, like my main issues with him, I probably already touched on, because he was just way too over the top for such a major role. I think if you want to break it down as to him as a person, I actually don't think he was a bad dude. In fact, I think he was actually a pretty great friend and potentially a little bit misunderstood. But he was just super annoying to hang out with for 90 minutes. And like when you're sitting there watching the movie, there needs to be an enjoyment factor apart from the fact that you go, oh, he's actually not a bad guy. So that just never really worked for me.
Yeah, I think that they tried to make him too cocky and too overconfident, like you sort of mentioned, and having this playoff where he comes from wealth and he has the money and he has the power from his family, and then he wants to look out for his best friend and be his manager, and his best friend sort of not as well off, and and they tried to make him too comical, like he was, like you said, he was too in your face. He was there all the time. If they had have brought that back a little bit and not tried to play every line that he had as some kind of joke, yeah. I was trying to think. I was like, why have they stuck with this character, like stuck with these traits the whole way through, even though it sort of grinds your gears the whole way through. And the only thing I could sort of think of was that some kind of almost play off the fact that his dad's not there for him. He's worrying about going to Harvard, doesn't, worried about fitting in. If those are the concerns that we saw in the last 5 minutes of the bloody film, like if they'd have done a better job throughout the film, then maybe you would have got that overconfidence in the situations where he was being cocky, because you would have got why he's trying to fit in. But they didn't do a good enough job with that at all. But I'm thinking that's what they were probably trying to do.
It's a really good point, because he actually does have this backstory that's, quite important, and they really could have played that off nicely. And if that's what they were trying to do by talking about the fact that he didn't have, a father figure in his life, and he didn't want to go down the path that everyone expected him to go down, I think they did a terrible job doing that, because they basically made him out like he was this cartoon character that was just, he was a gag a minute, and he was also, a bit sort of clumsy and making mistakes, but still pushing really hard. Like the whole father thing and the money thing was almost just like part of his life, as opposed to something he was trying to resolve until the end, which was almost a nice scene with him and his dad in the bedroom, but didn't get a vibe that was really an issue for him for the whole time. So yeah, a lot went wrong with Jeff.
Good. All right, Owen, fill us in on Owen.
Well, he's probably the opposite to Jeff in the sense that I think he was just a bit too forgettable and blasé for someone who's supposed to become this big time rapper in obviously a fictional story. He just felt very two-dimensional. I don't think we ever really learnt and understood anything of substance about his character. Everything was just kind of explained to us on the surface level. Like, he likes Jeff's sister. His parents want him to be a Marine. He needs to be pushed to be motivated. And we didn't actually see his character explore these, apart from just like talking to them.
Yeah. I completely agree, because it's literally, obviously he's got this talent, like this ability to rap, and facing this rejection, and having this supportive friend, supportive dad. But like you said, he didn't give you anything more. You didn't get anything else from him apart from flirting with his sister. But I do think, on the other hand, that without this the performance of this character, this film would have been even worse. I think he like performance wise, he held it together. He held this film together almost. But I agree. Like I guess and this is probably saying a lot about the film. He was probably the most relatable character in this film, and he wasn't even like that a standout character either. Which says a bit about the film more than anything else, I guess.
I mean, that's a really good point, because he was relatable because, let's be really, really honest, there's really only two characters that get enough exploration. One of them, as I said, is basically a cartoon character. This guy is, if you're an actor, and I'm certainly not going to pretend like I have any sort of credentials in understanding acting, but I feel like there's no substance to this role. Like, there's just not a lot you can do with this role, I don't think. So it's relatable because it's not over the top, and it's not unexplored in any way. So that's probably fair in that sense. He's just a normal dude, but there's still,
he's the complete opposite of Jeff. That's and like, well, I don't really like Jeff, so he's the one that I'm going to try and relate to a little bit.
That'll do.
Yeah. The only other person that I've got here is Alicia. I just thought we'd touch on briefly. And the reason I put her down is because, thinking back on that character, I was like, did we really need her at all? And I thought, I don't know, maybe I thought a little bit too much into this, but you could cut this character, because then you'd have more of a focus on these two friends, actually bouncing off each other without the need of this love interest in the background. And it'd give me more confidence in thinking that Owen actually wanted this recording deal. because, and this is a concern that I'll probably talk about a little bit later on, but I had big concerns with his actual motivations in wanting to do it. And I don't know whether it's because they just didn't do a good enough job of it, but to me, it was like more Jeff's dream than his dream. And that was because Jeff was so over the top, I guess.
Yeah. I like what you say about Alicia, because I actually had the opposite take, but in a sense that they both have the same concern. So my issue with her is, what do we even know about her? Like, why is she in the film? And to your point, you're saying, well, why is she in the film? Don't put her in the film. My point is saying she gets enough screen time. Why don't we actually do more with her? And it's the same concern. It's just going down a different route of how you do it. Because all we know is that she's a bit of a flirt and she's a bit of a tease, but she's just part of Jeff and Owen's story as opposed to being this fully fleshed out character. And I think she has that much screen time that there's so much opportunity to give her something that her character stands for, or why she wants to do this, or why she's misunderstood. Like, they just don't even do it, but they give her she's on screen for probably 40 minutes of the film. Like,
it's true.
It's not well done. And you could go the other way as well and just cut her out and focus on the friendship, or you give her something and mean that there's this other character that we can try and bounce off. So either way, they got it wrong.
Yeah, they like going on with what you're saying, you could give a little background as to why she's always going for these guys that are really douchey, and then why she had this change in heart and heading towards Owen now. Like, just a little bit of an explanation there would have given us a little bit more on her.
Because they do it without telling you why. They just do it like, hey, guess what? You know what? She's not going to go for the douche. She might even go for Owen. It's like, yeah, but I don't really understand her as to why. I got no problem with her going for douches. That's what she does. But I don't know why she does it, and I don't know why she might change.
Yeah, good. All right. Have you got any other characters that you wanted to talk about?
No, you could argue to talk about Bernard, but I'd just be filling space.
Good. All right. Well, the director, Ian Edelman. Edelman. He created the HBO show How to Make It in America. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's what I've writer and director.
Yeah, writer and director. Yeah. So I haven't watched that show. I've seen that show around the grounds a bit, but that's about all I could really find on him.
Yeah, and this is his second feature. He directed a film called Puerto Ricans in Paris in 2015. So he's got some credentials.
Good. All right. This is where we move into our scenes. Some scenes that we start off with, ones that we liked, and then move into some ones that we didn't like. So, MJ, what are some ones that you enjoyed in this one?
Well, when we do talk about these scenes, I'm actually not going to talk about too many, because this is one of those movies that there were no scenes that I particularly liked, but there are also no scenes that I particularly disliked. I was kind of waiting for this film to get out of first gear, and it never did. So it's not like it was terrible and I was like, oh my God, this sucks. It was just like, oh, when am I going to feel something? But I did. And I think I should mention as well, I have very, very little interest or knowledge of the rap or hip hop industry. And I know that there are a lot of cameos in this film, as you spoke about. I have heard of Wiz Khalifa. I didn't know that was him when he was on stage until he was introduced. And apart from that, I didn't know anyone else. So I need to preface that. If you're into this stuff, then you're going to get more of a kick out of seeing all these guys. To me, they were just extras. So I do want to put my hand up and say that. But the only scene that I said that I liked, and I kind of liked it because I finished this film.
One. Oh, no.
I finished this film and there was nothing. I actually went back in my head. I'm like, well, what film did you like the most, MJ? That's kind of, and I kind of liked it when Owen had the balls to rap in the street, standing on his car, because his character never really showed anything like that, and I was kind of proud of him when he did it. But even then, like, I wrote it down retrospectively because it was probably my favorite film in the film without blowing my socks off.
Okay. Usually,
I don't have many that I didn't like either.
Okay, good. Well, yeah, I'm going to take a little bit of time because I pulled a couple of things that were okay for me. And like you said as well, there's nothing that's massively stand out. But going back, I was like, okay, what are some things that I did enjoy? So there were lots and lots of these little cutbacks or flashbacks done where they showed parts from their past as friends, or they showed Owen's mixtapes, and had this joke about his mum's Insta account about her meatloaf, and Owen walking in on Alicia in the shower. These types of things, they could have been really, really poor, but I think they did them quite well. They were quick enough, sharp enough just to pop them in. They didn't drag them out really long, these little segues, I guess. So that ties in a little bit with one of my favorite scenes of the film, where Owen smokes that weed with Wiz Khalifa, and then he just spews everywhere. And after the spewing, that viral dance, that the seizure dance that goes viral, that includes these little cutbacks that I was talking about, because they sort of go to all these people doing that dance. So I thought that the way they integrated them into the film were fairly decent. I enjoyed the little the French New Wave cinema connection between Owen and Alicia. I just thought that was kind of cute, where they spoke about that, and then he made jokes about that. So I thought that was cool. The French Montana concert, where Alicia gets pulled up on stage, and there's the random girl in the mosh pit talking to Owen, going, is that your girlfriend? And he's like, nah. And she's like, well, thank God, because he's going to be fucking her tonight. And then he's like, nah, this is just all an act. And she's like, she's going to be pregnant. I just thought that was hilarious. I had a really good laugh with that. I thought that was good. And then the last thing that I thought was funny was that big brawl at the end, and someone shoots a gun and everyone starts running, and there's cops everywhere. And Jeff goes up to a cop, and he gives this description of his mate, and he's like, have you seen his black teen? Blah blah blah. And the cop's like, I've seen about 30. And then his response is just like, fuck the police, and just walked off. I thought that was excellent. I thought that was really good.
Yeah, that wasn't too bad actually.
But yeah, looking back at them, they're not amazing scenes. They're just little things that gave me little giggles throughout, or little moments bits, that I was like, that allowed me to keep going with this one. All right, what's the thing that you didn't like in this?
Yeah, and look, again, there's not heaps. I mentioned before the whole sister part of the plot. It seemed like this really important plot point, but I feel like I just missed the point where it was so important. I think all of a sudden it was like, oh, I'm only going to go if your sister comes. It's like, I'll give you 20 grand to come. I'm like, what the hell? Like, why does she have to come? Like, don't you just want to get a chance to talk to this record label dude? But anyway, that was just a big thing that I feel like just never really got explained well enough.
Like, we just need to really prove to you that they're really rich, and they can have bets as siblings for 20 grand. Like,
insane. Just so she can come out. Like, what a great, like, you get to have a night where you got these VIP backstage tickets to this concert, and you're getting paid 20 grand to do it. Jeez, where do I sign? It annoyed me when she did, to your point, when she danced on stage with French Montana and she went backstage, that within 1 minute she was like friends with everyone, and I knew that she found someone that she already knew. But they walked backstage and she's just sitting there with a glass of champagne and a group of like 5 girls, and that's ridiculous. They literally walked out there like as soon as you went back there. But there's a really bad scene in the elevator when they were guessing that girl's nationality. I know it was only a quick one, but that was just ridiculous. Like, it just didn't need to be in it, and it almost felt a little bit offensive. But anyway. And the whole stripper part of the film, when they went to the strip club and they took the strippers with them, it just felt like it was filler to make the film run time a little bit longer. A little bit of a quirky side story that you might remember with some quirky new characters that just didn't add anything. But it was like, oh shit, we've only got a 70-minute film if we don't put these guys down.
I had exactly the same, like that, was it Ms. Belisa or whatever her name was? Just that whole, from at the strip club to the boyfriend roughing her up to them chasing with the bikes. I agree. That whole segment was just not needed at all.
Yeah, that's all I've got though.
All right. I've got a couple others. So, at the start, Owen and Jeff are on that train, and then the train inspector starts rapping with them on the train. I thought that was just like a clear, blatant part for them to have this exposition where the train conductor could just be like, not the conductor, but the ticket inspector could be like, your culture's dying and you're the future, which the rest of the film didn't really fit in with anyway. And I was like, if you're going to open up with this idea or this theme that these guys are the future, we need them to uphold the future, like, follow it through. Don't just have some random train guy sort of put
That's
that
a really
in
good point. I probably would have been a better story if they had gone with that.
Because that's what I thought. I was like, okay, all right, that's what their goal is to, be sort of inspirational kids for the future. Nah, not at all. The car park attendant with he's just sitting there watching the porn in the car, and then obviously does it in Jeff's dad's car as well. Like, it wasn't funny. I get they were trying to go for laughs.
It's just a gag that didn't work. Yeah,
it didn't work. The boys, every time they went somewhere, them not being on a list, like, it just was repetitive and annoying. Like, it was frustrating.
Yeah, that's true. That's a good one.
When they do rock up to that French Montana concert, they walk in the door and some random guy comes up to him. He's like, oh, you're Seizure Boy, sort of thing. And then Alicia out of nowhere just like attacks him and stands up for him. I just thought that was really really, really random and really weird. Like, was that meant to be the moment that we believed now she's into Owen? Like, I couldn't.
Good point. Her whole story just doesn't work.
No, couldn't place it together. I really hated the last 5 minutes, the tie up with Jeff's dad. It would have been better just to leave him as an asshole, leave him as that character that was an asshole, because now you get that call. He gets that call from French Montana. Don't need the dad there. He's successful. Didn't need his dad to do it. Didn't need his dad to support him, and he can prove to himself that he's good enough. And just leave the dad as an asshole. That annoyed me.
Yeah, either that or develop that backstory better.
Yeah, rather than just dump it in at the end. I really didn't like the end scene. Owen goes to see Alicia for that sex, and then just that fade to black. It's his best mate's sister, and they didn't make a point about like. I don't know, just dubious choices. Dubious choices.
Yeah.
Anyway.
I think you've made very valid points in all that.
That's me done. So this is where we sort of move into what's this film sort of trying to say, MJ? What were some of the messages that you got out of this one?
Well, you probably talked about it when you mentioned the tagline, but that idea of persistence and pushing the boundaries of how far you'll go to get what you want. Maybe that's a nicer way of putting it than just, being a bit of a jerk about not taking no for an answer. But, maybe you do need to push some boundaries if you really want to get what you want, because everyone else is doing the same thing to get what they want, and maybe you need to do something a little bit different and push a little bit harder. So that's a kind of a nice notion. But it's that combined with the idea of being there for your friends, even if you open yourself up to something going very, very wrong that's going to hurt you, then it just makes you a better friend.
Yeah, completely. Yeah, that, like you said, friendship, doing what you can for a friend. That idea of dreams and not giving up when everything's against you, and I guess that sort of ties in a little bit with growing up too, and sort of developing a bit as a person. And I think the main thing through this was this authenticity as well, where when we talk about being yourself and not lying to your friends. And I guess this is why that character of Jeff was so over the top, because it's not trying too hard. Like you don't need to try that hard and be something that you're not. So I get where they're trying to go with that, but that sort of stands true with the film too. They were trying way too hard to get.
But they were explicit about that, weren't they? Like, stop trying to be someone you're not.
100%, yeah.
Oh, okay. I'll just be yourself. Oh,
okay. Good. All right. Well, what did you take away from this one?
It actually, to me, it felt like a less good version of XOXO. And bear with me, because XOXO, which was a Netflix original film that we did near the beginning, about a EDM concert, basically. Because XOXO wasn't great, but I think it did a far better job of introducing semi-likable characters, and I think it built emotion into the climax much more successfully than what this film did. So I don't think this was a terrible movie, but it was terribly forgetful. It was just a bunch of stuff that happened on a crazy night, and I never really cared about any of it. And I didn't actively dislike it. I just never connected with it. So I guess, if anything, I'm taking away my disconnection from this industry. And that's actually probably unfair, because you could make a movie that I would care about, but you need to do a lot of work with the characters and the backstories and the context, and all that stuff just didn't work for me.
Yeah, because like, for example, like Whiplash, we can enjoy Whiplash not having a music background and just get that ability of the filmmaking. So yeah, I think you're right there. Very, very similar with what you've got, because for me, if you ask me about this in a couple of weeks' time, I wouldn't have much to say about it. I wouldn't be able to remember what had happened, because like you said, the characters, the events are just this random bunch of things. And I was going to skew the other way. I was going to say that this is a better version of Take the 10, which was a Netflix film that we did.
You know what? It is as well. I'll put it in the middle of those three.
So I was like, we've got so you've gone XOXO and I've gone Take the 10. I'm like, it's better than that, but still pretty ordinary.
That's a great call.
No, when you're going through it, I'm like, wow, we're very in touch today. we hadn't discussed this film at all before speaking either. So, okay, IMDb time. Did you jump on to check anyone out on IMDb?
I did, because Jeff is so familiar to me, and I don't know if this is where I remember him from, but when I look at it now, have you seen the movie Sex Tape with Jason Segel and Cameron Diaz?
I haven't, no.
Okay, but there's a little kid in the film who basically blackmails Jason Segel, and it's Harrison Holzer as like a kid who plays Jeff. And I you look at the images from it now because I did a Google search of it, and you could definitely see the face. But apart from that, I hadn't seen him in anything else. So I have to assume that maybe somewhere in my mind I associated the face with him. So because he's just really familiar.
I had the same one too. I was like, Harrison Holmer, so familiar. Jeff, and I was like, no, didn't recognize him from anything. I saw Sex Tape was on there, but hadn't seen that. And this was his last film that he's done as well. So hasn't done anything since then. I did have another one as well though. So not for looking up who they were, but DJ Khaled, when he came on the screen, I was like, I'm sure this is your at least second Netflix film. I was like, I remember seeing you in another film, but it was from Pitch Perfect 3. It wasn't a Netflix film.
He's a big dude, yeah.
Yeah, so that was I knew I'd seen him in a film at some stage recently. But yeah, that was my other one. I knew who he was, but yeah, obviously thought he was in another Netflix original, which he wasn't. So that's okay.
I remember him in Pitch Perfect 3 because you felt like it was going to be this cameo, and all of a sudden he probably had like a good 15 minutes where he was like a semi-important character, and that was a terrible movie, Pitch Perfect 3. And I'm an advocate for the first two, but the third one was awful.
I think they got worse as they went on.
Yeah.
All right, question time. Have you got anything that you'd like to ask?
Yeah, I got two. Well, one of them's a situational thing about the actual film. How was Jeff in the food truck when he gave that girl the iced coffee at the start? Why was he in there, and where was the person who was supposed to be running it?
Just seems like one of those things. He seemed to always get his hands into everything, didn't he? He just could manage to get in a car with a guy who could get him tickets, and just able to get into record label, offices and working somewhere. I don't know. Yeah, I agree.
I was kind of hoping that the guy would have been like at the back and he would have handed him $20 or something, but they didn't even do that. And I was actually scanning the truck because you could see through the whole thing, and there was no one else in there. So just do a better job at explaining these kinds of things. And my other question, which I think might be a hard one for you to answer, but is this film better than XOXO?
I didn't really like XOXO.
I know that's
so from memory, I can't even remember what I gave XOXO. I think maybe a 1.5, possibly. Ooh, that's a good question. Yeah, XOXO really grinded my gears more for the use of drugs in that film.
That's right.
So probably a little bit of a different sort of vibe from this one. But I guess they do use. They didn't really the use of drugs in this wasn't necessarily a positive thing though, because he copped a lot of criticism for using marijuana and vomiting. So it's almost putting it in a negative basket rather than a positive basket like the XOXO were. Jeez. Sorry, I don't
know. Those trips they had in XOXO weren't particularly positive.
I'm just going on a bit of a ramble here, but I don't know the answer to that question because I haven't given my overall. I want to hold off until I say what I give for this one yet. So yeah, I don't know. You obviously liked XOXO more.
But not much.
Yeah.
I didn't like XOXO that much. I thought it did a few things better.
Good. All right, what I wanted to ask you, what did you think of Owen's rapping? Like, did you think it was a decent rapper?
Yeah, like I thought he was fine, but I don't have an ear for it either. Like, it just, I don't know. I think isn't the idea of rapping more about the lyrics and the way they can tell a story in like a poetic way? But I don't know. I think it was.
I don't know whether it's just because of loving Hamilton at the moment, but because of that, his rapping in this seems so bad, so bad. Isn't it? Like the rapping in Hamilton is amazing. Like, is literally 2.5 hours of amazing storytelling through rapping, like you mentioned. And to me, this was just nowhere near that. And that's probably just because I've got this recency of Hamilton in my mind. But yeah, nice try.
Can we just say actually? Is it, obviously he makes it big because of his rap where he is genuinely shit-canning his friend, like saying some of the most hurtful things about this guy's personality. Do we have to sit there and think that it's a little bit sad? It's not like he was joking with these things. Like, that's how he really felt. and that was what got him stardom. Is that kind of a bit off-putting?
And then they're all good as well. Like, they're just happy mates, like straight away. No real. It's just like I'm sorry about that. Okay, cool. Let's be friends.
He said some things that would cut you to the core if your best friend told you. Like, and then that was like, hey, guess what? That was great. It's like, yeah, how good's this? I don't know. That doesn't sit that well with me.
No, good. Yeah, good point.
Why couldn't you rap about their friendship?
You've been so pushy all my life. You've pushed me. You're like, oh my God, who knows? The last thing I had for you, you've already answered this anyway, but I wanted to know if you knew any rappers from the film, and you already mentioned that knowledge of them wasn't as high. The only reason I wanted to ask that was because French Montana, who sings that unforgettable song up on stage during the film, I was lucky enough I got to see him in concert in Melbourne back in 2017.
Right.
I supported The Weeknd when I got to see The Weeknd. So when that song came on, I was like, great song. Just good memories from that concert. It was a very good night.
I know that you love The Weeknd, and I remember years and years ago, we were out with friends, and I think you guys were having a debate about whether The Weeknd is like a household name or not. And you guys asked me, like, do you like The Weeknd? And I'm like, who doesn't like The Weeknd? Like, it's better than The Working Week.
Such a dad joke.
I'm now familiar, but I wasn't even a joke.
Yeah,
I'm now familiar with him. My wife does play his songs a little bit, and he's in Uncut Gems, isn't he? Is he the one in Uncut Gems?
Yeah, he is in Uncut Gems. Yeah. Yep, definitely. Yep. Good pickup. All right. Well, I think we're ready to start to put this one together. And at the end of our show, we give our films a rating out of 5 to give it a Flix Forum average, where we add them up and average it out. So, MJ, what are you going to finish with for this one?
Yeah, look, I think it was a harmless movie that never really got out of the gates for me. So I just had no connection with the characters or their performances, and the stakes and the overall content just didn't work for me. So it's 1.5 stars.
Awesome. Along the same boat, it was okay. I mentioned this a little bit before, I guess, but Kyle Harvey, who played Owen, I think he was the only thing that kept this from falling into a complete and utter mess. This film could have been a disaster. It felt like they needed to get as many cameos in as they possibly could, and created this over the need for, and Jeff needed to be funny when he didn't really need to be that funny. So it was just a whole bunch of things that didn't really go right together. It's worth a watch if you like rap, or you just want something that you don't need to focus on too much, I guess. So for me, it's a 2 out of 5, which gives us an average of a 1.75, which is a little bit on the low end.
Yep. Hey, can we what's his name? Kyle Harvey. I'm pretty sure he now just goes by Kyle on IMDb.
Correct, because I think he's a rapper. He's got actual songs out, so I think his artist name is Kyle. Yeah,
that's right. I did read that. When I saw that, I'm like, that's way too common a name. You can't really seal it with Kyle. Like
the best comparison I can think of is Ricky Lee Coulter. Now she's just Ricky Lee.
But just because she was on Australian Idol and everyone knew her as Ricky Lee. Yeah. I loved Ricky Lee on Australian Idol, Jesse.
I still got that signed photo of her in my room at my parents' place.
That's awesome.
All right. So we are on social media. We have Twitter, we have Facebook, we have Instagram. Check us out. Follow us if you can. Download any of our back episodes as well, our back catalogue. Question for the week that wanted to ask was, did the recording contract mean more to Owen or to Jeff? Because to Jeff, I agree as well. which is sad, because you wanted Owen to actually want it. You wanted him to see that motivation for him to actually go after it, rather than just be like, nah, I'm just going to go to the Marines. And we saw that.
It's kind of nice though to see a dedicated manager story as well. Like, I'm sure, obviously, the artists get all the credit and their stories, the ones that we want to hear. But I'm sure there's tons and tons of managers who have busted their ass to get what they are. So there's a little flavour of what it might take.
No, turned it into a nice ending for this one. Very nice. So we are back again next week. We have another film for you. This next week's going to be a French film. Okay. It's from 2018. It's a mystery thriller. It's called The Most Assassinated Woman in the World. It's directed by Franck Ribéry, and it stars Anna Mougallias, Niels Schneider, Eric Godon, Sissy Duparc, Andre Wilms, and Mikel Fau. So it's going to be an interesting one, a French mystery thriller.
It's an intriguing title.
Yeah, The Most Assassinated Woman in the World. Looking forward to it. Should be good. Be good.
Check it out.
It's only been about 5 episodes since we've done an international film, so
they're coming thick and fast.
Yes, as usual, it's been good fun chatting, and unfortunately, neither of us really enjoyed this one, but we always have next week to look forward to.
That's the whole goal, right? The next good movie is only another watch away.
And I'm going to finish it on there. Not going to say anything else. Good job.